Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Apple Box Chronicles. My name is Peyton Buto.
And I'm Adryon Thomas.
And today on the ABCs, we are taking you from A to Z on happiness, the very concept of happiness, the movie happiness. Trigger warnings for this one.
This is if you're not used to some pretty out there subjects and controversial things, and this is probably not the episode for you.
Yeah, we were kind of looking over what we wanted our next episode to be, and we kind of had an idea, and then it didn't quite work out, and we were like, what are we going to pivot to here? And we were looking around this room of all of our different movies and stuff, and then we were like, or you were like, happiness. And instantly, the light bulb went off, and here we are.
Yeah. A little side note, I am getting over a cold, so if I sound a little different, that's why. But let's get into it. The reason why we're doing this movie particularly is because in this segment, we are talking about movies in our Criterion collection that we blind bought. I have seen this movie before, but this was a blind buy for you, Peyton.
It was.
What was your initial thoughts?
I mean, I like to say it's a film so nice I had to watch it twice, really. We watched it once. Our neighbor, who is our good friend, came over, and he watches movies with us sometimes, and we had to show it to him. We knew it would be his thing. We're not monsters. And then he kind of showed it to several of his friends in the coming days after that, and he's seen it like 3 times now. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times now. And what I'm realizing is, like, we are happiness spreaders in a way. We spread happiness. That's what everyone usually says about me. That Peyton, he spreads happiness. So, yeah, I love this movie. I had heard so many different things about it. It's kind of notorious for being dark and making light of some very serious, awful things. But in this instance, I really started to kind of get on the wavelength that I think the movie is going for. And I think we both really started to appreciate the movie watching it like twice in a short period of time. And so that's why it's a really good one to talk about, because we have a bit of a thesis on this. You know, we have a bit of an idea of what we want to approach this with. We're not going to do our typical thing where we break down the plot and stuff. We're going to go character by character. This is a ensemble movie about a bunch of characters going through different struggles to find happiness. And it's just kind of interweaving plot lines. So the story's not as important. The emotions, the themes, what each character is going through, and what the common threads are is what's really important.
Yeah. This movie is very much like, we were talking about it, it's kind of like a Robert Altman movie where you get all these characters that are intertwined with each other. They all know each other in like various aspects of the world. But we're following each character as they go through their own struggles and trying to find their own happiness. So we just thought that was pretty cool. It's not like a plot-driven movie in that sense, but we just wanted to talk about it through those characters specifically because they all have very specific means in which they think they want to be happy. But by trying to go through certain avenues, they find out that maybe they're not pursuing the right ways to get to be happy. And it's very funny, but also very, very, very dark and scary.
That is a warning for all of you listening. If you have not seen this film, if you do not know what it contains, maybe look at like the IMDb parental guide or something.
Trigger warning.
Look over some of the subject matter it explores. Do some research before you listen to this whole thing, because we're kind of just going to talk about it. And, this is such an interesting movie, but I could see why somebody would find it just completely appalling and not want to hear about it, and it might, strike a nerve with some people. So I don't want to, bother anybody. Just proceed with caution on this one.
Yeah, and Peyton, you want to talk about what is this movie actually about?
Okay, this is the thesis that I have. So first, let me recite for you the tagline for this movie, not the synopsis and the tagline. So the tagline on Letterboxd is, "You want, he wants, she wants, but nobody wants what I want." Very interesting tagline. they're probably talking about happiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where, all of these characters kind of want a certain thing, but to get what they want, it requires the world or other people to move in a certain way to accommodate what they want. So that whole, like, we are all longing for something, but nobody matches my freak, Nobody matches what I want, so I can't be happy. The premise itself, the synopsis says, the lives of several individuals intertwine as they go about their lives in their own unique ways, engaging in acts which society as a whole might find disturbing in a desperate search for human connection. My thesis on the film, as you asked, is that, simply put, the movie's about post-nut clarity. You guys know what this is, post-nut clarity? I'm sure if you're listening, you're an adult, you've heard of it. I'm going to read from the exact Wikipedia page what that is. Post-nut clarity is a term describing the feeling of being clear-headed or mentally reset after orgasm in sexual intercourse or masturbation. Feelings of disgust with oneself as well as guilt have also been associated with the term. Disgust and regret with the act of intercourse or with one's sexual partner has also been documented. So, what does that have to do with the movie Happiness, you might ask? I think we might have to get into some of these characters to answer that question, so we're going to circle back to that. I'm just going to leave you with that.
Yeah.
And we're just going to circle back to that idea. First of all, what are your thoughts on that? When I say that, what do you think? Do you think I'm on the money, having seen this movie?
Yeah. No, that's definitely, like, a theme, I guess, with the movie is these individuals trying to find happiness through certain means, and sometimes they do those certain means to find their happiness, and they find out that, that's not what they were looking for. That's not the happiness they were looking for. And some characters do find happiness within those means, and it is not at all morally appropriate or welcoming or good. So, with each character, they're a bit different in what they want. So, we're just kind of go through some of these characters. We'll start off with the first character we meet, Joy, who's played by Jane Addams, and she's really good. She's a great actress in this, but she kind of plays a loser in this.
Well,
most
characters are losers in this movie, as well as great performances.
Yeah,
I think that applies to everyone.
Yeah, but
everyone is matching the freak of the movie, at least.
Yes, but in this certain character, it seems like that is her main thing. She doesn't seem to find happiness through her own means, because she almost wants to appease certain people or certain subjects, and by trying to do so, it backfires, and she's doing like the opposite of what she initially intended.
So for her character, I think she is a bit of a people pleaser. She lacks purpose. She kind of is seeking connection, like through romance, through a partnership. She wants to have a more meaningful career. She works like an office job, and then shortly into the movie, she kind of quits that job and tries to go work with immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And she thinks that, I think it's like she's like a language teacher or something like that.
She's like teaching English.
She's teaching them something, and I think she thinks through doing that, doing something good for the community, she's gonna find happiness and fulfillment that way. She's also a musician. She plays guitar and this sort of thing. So for her, she never finds this kind of success because she believes like doing the right thing, being recognized for doing the right thing, being recognized for being a good person will bring her happiness. But as much as she tries to do the right thing and kind of throws herself at anyone who, shows her interest romantically, she's never given the respect and the recognition that she thinks that she'll get from that. And so she kind of has to learn, and this is something that a lot of the characters are going to come to terms with, self-respect. And she kind of has to realize that she deserves that respect just as much, and that she's the only one that can really give it to herself. Can't come from an external source. And that's exemplified by these strikers that are outside of her new job, striking for, better treatment as workers. And for a while, she she scabs and she passes them by, and she works anyway. And then by the end of the film, she says a line. I think it's one of the last lines you hear from her. She goes, "I think I have more sympathy for the strikers." She kind of feels like she wants to go on strike in her own life, and she's like, "Well, people don't deserve me if they're not going to respect me."
Yeah, and I think it all starts from the very beginning of the movie where she's on a date with John Lovitz. Really funny scene because in a way she kind of breaks off with him. I guess they weren't together, but they were on dates, and she's kind of like, "Oh, I just kind of see you as a friend. I don't want to continue this," but that really breaks his heart. And by that happening, he later on commits suicide, which throws her into this very awful moral compass where she's like, I caused his suicide in a way. So she's trying very hard to backtrack and do good, and by constantly trying to be good, she's not. She's she wants to do, instead of being in the job that she was currently at, she tries, like you said, to become an immigrant teacher, but they're already on strike because they're the teachers aren't getting paid well enough. But she's like, but I'm trying to do good. I'm trying to help these people come to America and learn culture. But even the students, they're just like, no, we want our old teacher back because they're not getting paid enough because they're really cool, and the company's not paying them well. And she can't seem to catch a break with anybody, and I just find that really funny because out of all the characters, she's the most vanilla out of all of them.
She's definitely one of the more I guess you could say relatable, but more just good.
Yeah.
It's okay, your struggles make sense, and you are I feel sympathy for you a lot. And she even gets into this romantic encounter with one of her students who's Russian.
Yeah.
And he treats her kind of nice for a night. He's I'll give you a ride home in my taxi, and he drives her home, and they have sex, and he sings to her with her guitar.
Yeah.
He serenades her, and then he just steals her CD player. And she finds out he's already married, and I think he's abusive towards his wife.
Yeah.
And she has to give him money to get a CD player, her own CD player back. And that's kind of the last straw for her, that she kind of realizes, I need to respect myself more.
Yeah. But she's nothing compared to the next character that we're going to talk about.
The next character we're going to talk about is everyone's favorite character in the movie, because it's honestly the craziest performance. It's one of the most courageous performances I've ever seen.
Yes.
The bravery to play this character and play it so... I don't even want to even say earnestly, the way that he's portraying this character. So go ahead. We can get into it.
So this is probably the biggest reason why this movie has the reputation that it does, is because we have a character named Bill, played by Dylan Baker, and he is a pedophile in the movie. He is straight up a man who wants to have sexual relations with younger boys, younger prepubescent boys, and we follow his emotional journey through that, and he doesn't back down from it at all. He is committed to having sex with younger boys, and so how do you talk about this character, because he's truly a bad person, but the movie is in a weird way not sympathizing with him, but understanding that he's still a person trying to find happiness in his own ways.
So the thing is, for him, he's on the farthest side of that spectrum where he can only find happiness in like these dark, immoral, illegal, just disgusting, depraved things that he desires. But the way that the movie, I think, doesn't, I guess, glorify him or, doesn't treat him as the same as everyone else because he is a messed up person. In
fact, he is on the outside the most normal, successful looking individual because he's a successful like therapist. He has a family, a wife, a child, children.
But you can see how he truly just has no empathy for any of this.
Yeah,
like, it's
that
all
lifestyle
kind of,
is
window dressing.
Yeah, that lifestyle is not what makes him happy at all, and he's pretty depressed about that kind of lifestyle that he holds.
There is a feature on the Criterion for this where Dylan Baker, the actor, talks about this character and talks about this movie, and in the way he was describing it, it actually, in a lot of ways, is like Trap, starring Josh Hartnett. It is kind of like that character, except in that movie, he's a serial killer, and in this movie, he's not a serial killer, he's something else.
He's worse.
Yeah, he's worse. But it's the double life aspect is what I mean, and the way that he kind of has no empathy in what he's doing. It's all just kind of like to appear normal. But then he has his own therapist, and he talks about like this dream he has where he's just killing everybody, and I think at the end he like kills himself at the end of the dream, and it's just awful. But the way that the film others him as not being, oh, but like you should feel sympathy for him the same way. Like it's not trying to like both sides the whole thing. It's kind of being like, well, this guy in his own twisted way is looking for his form of happiness just like everyone else. But the thing that makes him so evil is that he's willing to cross all these lines to get that, and when he is held responsible for these actions, he does not feel regret for them. He is asked bluntly in the film by his son, would you do it again? And he says, yes, it was great.
So we talked about earlier how this movie's about post-nut clarity, and the reason why this character is different than everybody else is that he does not have post-nut clarity.
So the reason that I bring up the idea of masturbation and post-nut clarity at the beginning of this episode, which I know is such a bizarre metaphor to use, is that it is textual. In the movie, the son of Dylan Baker's character, who we will get into, his struggle is that he doesn't understand how to do that. Like, he wants to be able to successfully masturbate and finish, so to speak.
Yeah.
And he has these... some of the funniest scenes in the film is when he's talking, like you'll see on the photo here, when he's talking to his son about this struggle that his son is having. And because his dad is such a messed up person and has this warped concept of sexuality, he can't really give him good advice, and he treats these things so casually when we're talking about like children.
Yeah.
Like he's like the kid's like, oh, this guy in my class, Ronald Farber, he says his thing is like 11 inches. He's like, well, what Ronald Farber doesn't know that it's not length that matters, it's width.
It's so fun. It's so messed up that it reaches another level of hilarity. It's crazy.
But so the reason I bring this up in regards to post-nut clarity is that Dylan Baker's character never gets the clarity, like you said. Yeah. He never has the moment of realization. Every other character is searching for that quick, easy, external pleasure that will reach its peak and make them feel happy and good. Kind of like when you're, cranking it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Why did I say that? Anyway, I'm trying so hard to go to try and make this not awkward, and I think I'm just kind of failing and making it more awkward. But here's the thing. So he wants that too. Everyone does, but he doesn't have the moment of realization. He just kind of craves more and more and more, and that's his downfall. So I think that the entire movie is actually centered around that concept, that everybody in the film seeks an external, cheap pleasure as their form of happiness, is what they think they want. And so for that to work, they need kind of a consent, so to speak. Dylan Baker's character does not get consent. In fact, the things that he seeks cannot provide consent to him in that way. And so everyone else is just kind of like trying to get the consent to work and trying to get it all like the way they want it. Dylan Baker does it by force.
Yeah.
Everyone else is just sad that they can't do it. So I'm sure that's not the last time we'll mention him.
No.
Is there anything else you want to say about this character?
No, it is a really messed up character, messed up role, but man, Dylan Baker pulls it off.
Oscar worthy.
It's so good and so funny. It's the thing about this movie is it takes you such dark places, but in a very situationally hilarious ways.
And it's also to do with tone and delivery. Even the production design to an extent, because the film has it's almost like a backward reality to it. Like, some of the things in this movie just don't look like they are kind of set up and very stage-like. I don't know how to best explain it, but the production design of the film, it kind of gives it this otherworldly quality.
Well, I think
it's kind of a picturesque suburban quality, like a plastic.
I like the poster of the film because it kind of encapsulates what the movie feels like. You see all these cartoon characters, and it kind of looks like, this could be like for a family, a kid. But then you look at the characters, and they look stressed out and like unhappy. Yes. Not a single one of them actually looks happy in this poster that says happiness in it. And there's incredible. A darkness behind it. It might be little cartoons on the picture, but there's a darkness behind it.
In fact, there is a hilarious video that you shared with me when this got released on Criterion of a child holding it and going, I want to watch this. It looks fun. Like, I want to watch this. Because I think he was drawn to the cartoonish look of that poster, and his dad or whatever is like, you're not watching that.
Yeah.
It's for adults.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's my take on at least the Dylan Baker character. Yeah. We want to get into Alan now, which is probably my second favorite character of this movie.
And he's also, I think, the second most popular, most notable character. He's also played by probably everyone's most known actor in this film is Philip Seymour Hoffman, plays Alan. And do you want to explain Alan's dilemma?
Oh man. Well, before we say that, let's just say, obviously, Philip Seymour Hoffman kills it in this role. He's so funny and so great. We were talking about the only time he smiles in the movie is him.
He's so... It's like when he's most stressed. It's very funny. So during the movie, he has a tunnel vision for his neighbor Helen, who's the next character that we'll talk about here. And he wants to basically take power over her sexually. He wants to sleep with her, but like in a very specific kind of aggressive way.
Let's just say he wants to sexually assault her.
Yeah. I'm trying not to.
Yeah.
The word.
He wants to sexually assault his neighbor, and by doing so. Well, not by doing so. By trying to achieve that, he'll like call random numbers, and once like a female picks up, once a woman picks up, he will like get into this really creepy tone and like talk about how he wants to take advantage of these random people, and that's how he gets off on it. And he does that. He calls his neighbor. And
he has a moment where he kind of explodes on her and says all these things that he wants to do to her. What's so funny is that this character, his therapist, is the Dylan Baker character.
Yeah, this is how like some of them intertwine with each other. They all kind of know each other in some way.
And also, we should mention his neighbor, who he's talking about, is Joy's sister as well. So it all kind of connects. But so he has this moment where he calls her and he says all the things he wants to do to her, and then he hangs up. And she then, it flips, and we'll get into this more with her character, but she then calls him back constantly and says, I want you to do it. I want you to do this stuff. And as soon as she wants to do it, he is scared. Now he's getting sheepish about it, and he doesn't want it anymore. And so when he makes that realization that, oh no, like I've ruined it, he's super stressed out, and his coworker comes up to him at that moment and is like, Did you see the game last night? And he like pretends to smile. He's like, oh yeah. And he's like, I was on my knees praying for that shot. And he's like, yeah, it worked. But like he says it in a sarcastic, like in a kind of stressed out way. He's like, it worked. And it's like a metaphor for like how he was praying for this result of he wanted this woman, but now that she wants him back, he's like, it worked, unfortunately. Like it worked in the way he didn't expect it to. And it really ended up scaring him.
Bizarre character. Not a good person either. Very selfish, but also he's also a very funny character because he feels like he's a nothing. Nobody ever listens to him. He's invisible to everybody. He's invisible to his own his own therapist, who's played by Dylan Baker. So like when he's talking to his therapist, Dylan Baker will just like zone out and think about, oh, I need to get milk. I need to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, he's like reciting his grocery list in his head. Well, I also think that has to do with the fact that Dylan Baker just has no empathy for his patients, and he's completely zoned out, probably doing the bare minimum at his job as well. And then Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, Alan, also forms a relationship with one of his other neighbors named Christina, who we will also get into in just a second. But basically, she experiences an assault as well, similar to the thing that he wanted to enact on other people. And when she describes it to him, I think it kind of makes him have a new perspective, because he starts to see himself in her assailant that she describes, and I think in a way it actually causes him to make some kind of perspective shift that could lead him into a more positive direction.
She is basically his post-nut clarity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's...
In a way.
In a way. So what's interesting about the dynamic between him and Helen, the neighbor that he wants to assault, is that her character has everything she wants. She's very beautiful. She's like constantly, she has a lot of partners, I think, that she takes, and she writes poetry. She's
rich. She has she writes poetry that makes her like popular, but she also has this idea that she has no trauma, so it means that she has no perspective on things, and she wish that she had trauma to put out to the world
and to have that perspective to put into her poetry as well. And what's interesting to me about this dynamic between her and Alan is that if she wants what he wants to give. She wants the trauma that he wants to enact onto her, but the thing that fucks it up is that she wants it, so she says, I want this, but he wants her to not want it.
Yeah.
So, in a weird way, they could complete each other, but they can't because they want it so bad from another person. And it's just this thing that, like, people in this movie can't be happy because all the things they want are dependent on someone else wanting something in such an exact and specific way that's just not going to happen, and in some cases, like with Dylan Baker's character, is not within the bounds of morals at all.
In a lot of the...
With Alan as well, yeah. I mean, Joy is pretty... she's cool.
A lot of this stuff does have to do with the fact that consent is like necessary for their happiness, but they don't have it. And that's kind of what's leading them down the wrong path.
Well, in some cases, I think, like with Alan, lack of consent is necessary for his happiness. And that's fucking wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there is that. It's a very weird, like, dynamic.
Because him and Helen even have a moment where she lets him into her apartment, and they're kind of like thinking they should try
That's
it.
actually one of the funniest moments.
So
to
funny
me.
because he reaches out to her in painfully slow motion.
It's so slow. It's almost unnoticeable until like halfway through. You're like, oh, he's getting closer to her.
Yeah, it's. I don't know how they perform that without breaking.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But yeah, he moves like very painfully slowly, like comically slow towards her with his hand. And right before he's about to touch her, she's like, you know what? You're not my type.
Yeah.
And he leaves. But him and Christina kind of form this, a little bit of a bond. They kind of have a little bit of a respect between them. And that's the character we'll get into next. So Christina, as we said, Alan's other neighbor, Cynthia Stevenson plays her.
Mm-hmm.
She has these oh wait, sorry, not Cynthia Stevenson, I'm so sorry, it's Cameron Manheim. I read the wrong thing. So she doesn't really want a physical sexual relationship, but she desires intimacy. So she wants intimacy, but she doesn't want the more visceral physical aspects of that.
Again, it's also very opposite of what Alan wants. He doesn't want the intimacy, he just wants the sex, which is problematic,
right?
For sure.
I think, though, over the course of the movie, maybe Alan kind of sours on that idea because of what he goes through with Helen, realizing what he wants isn't actually what he wants is wrong, and then also hearing about her traumatic experience kind of wakes him up to the fact that he is no different from that guy with what he desires. And I think, I would like to think that he would give up some of those things and try to get better, but obviously, I mean, this is not a movie that goes that far.
Yeah.
But they do have like a couple oddly cute moments together where they're like dancing to Air Supply, and it's kind of cute. They like get into bed together, but they like, I think, like face opposite. They just go to sleep. I think he has like shoes on in the bed. That fucking pissed me off.
Yeah. They're just like, it's kind of showcasing that they're sleeping together without, sleeping together. And that's kind of an interesting kind of visual thing.
I mean, the movie is also broadly about loneliness, and I think these are just some very lonely characters.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think with these two, the type of connection that you have been looking for maybe isn't the type of connection you need, and any connection at all, how it kind of comes to you, can maybe be comforting.
Yeah.
But, these people are just picky.
Yeah. I think we kind of skipped over a character, Trish, which is the sister of both Joy and Helen.
Correct.
And
she is played by Cynthia Stevenson.
Yeah, and she's the wife of Bill, Dylan Baker character, and she's kind of the most aloof. She's kind of delusional about the situations that she's in.
She is always smiling in the movie. She's always smiling. She's always talking to other people like she knows what's best for them. And she's talking to Joy, and she's just like, everyone used to kind of like think that you were just miserable, destined to be miserable, and then she like kind of passive aggressively, she's like, but now I see that's not true, because like I think Joy's telling her about her new job or a date, one or the other. But yeah, she has these kind of she's aloof, like you said. She has this happy suburban mom persona that's going on, but she is so, I think, convinced that is enough that she is blinded to who her husband really is and how awful of a person he really is. So in her sense, she's kind of like blissfully unaware of just everything. Yeah,
her happiness is an idea rather than reality.
Right. It's like, I think she kind of accepted that she just should be happy and therefore she is.
Yeah.
Whereas there are so many things wrong with her situation that she just doesn't see, because I think she's just convinced that this is like where she's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. She's an interesting one because she is really like, she's kind of just constantly upbeat the whole movie.
She's like the opposite of her husband in this movie, because her husband doesn't see the happiness in the life that he currently has, where she does see the happiness in the life that she has, but she doesn't understand that that's not true happiness.
It's not even the life that she has. It's the life she thinks she has.
Yeah.
Whereas, and she says this line to Dylan Baker when he's kind of just brushing her off and not really talking to her like she's a person because he's so distracted with his own shit. She goes, "How come every time you treat me like shit, I just can't help but love you more?" And I think her kind of way of maintaining happiness is just to adapt to everything that's thrown at her in a way that, like, it's like, oh, well, yeah, my husband's treating me like shit, but I'm supposed to love him, so, like, I'm, I love you more because of this. And then, like, even after her husband is exposed at the end of the film, she seems kind of okay after that. She still seems like she's like, oh, well, I'm looking for a new guy now, like, and she's kind of just chill about it in a weird way. We don't really see her freak out or get angry about it because I think her happiness journey is far from over. I think she is just adapting to everything that comes at her and keeping that aloof kind of aura about her.
Yeah. But she's kind of the least she, like you said, very interesting character because she thinks that she's happy, but she's actually not.
I don't think I put a picture up of her. I was like looking around. I was like, where did it go?
But then we get into their parents. The three sisters. They also have their parents, Lenny and Mona, played by Ben Garza and Louise Lasser.
I think so.
Yeah, but they're also interesting because they're both unhappy because they want a quote-unquote divorce without him actually ever saying he wanted a divorce. And they're kind of going down this own, like, late life crisis spiral as well.
He tells her he doesn't love her anymore, and then she's on the phone with one of their daughters, and she's like, your father wants a divorce, he doesn't love me anymore. And then he's like, what are you telling the kids? I didn't say the word divorce. Did I say the word divorce? And it's this thing where he's like, I love nobody. He kind of just wants to die.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I love no one. I'm not in love with you, or it's not because I'm in love with someone else. I don't really want a divorce. I think he's just kind of given up hope.
He's just done with life. I think the only form of happiness that he could find now is literally through death. Like he sees, there's a moment where he sees a guy like have a stroke on like a golf course or something, and he almost looks longing for that. He's like, I wish and he goes to like the doctor, and the doctor's like, you're in great health, just like be easy on the salt when you eat. And he wants there to be a problem. He wants it to end as soon as possible.
Yeah, so you see him at the end, he's like putting so much salt on his food to try and, accelerate that process. And I think to him he's just so bored with everything.
Yeah.
Whereas Mona, he wants a divorce without a divorce. Like, he just kind of wants to have it his way, which also applies into the sort of like you want to shape the world around you to make you happy, but the thing is, we all share the world, so we have to have a happiness within ourselves that works for us.
Yeah.
But Mona, his wife, she's like, now, you want to leave me? Now I have to get another fucking facelift, because it's like, to her, it's like she won't be happy without that lifestyle that she's used to, being married. It's like they don't really love each other anymore, but she just wants to be able to be married to him. She, I think, a little bit is like her daughter Trish.
Again, this movie is about like loneliness, and these people don't want to be lonely, and that's kind of causing them not to be happy in a way.
They don't want to be lonely, but they also don't want to compromise.
Yeah.
And they don't want to they're not happy being alone. And I think in life you kind of have to be, to an extent, happy with yourself in order to experience healthy human connection.
Yeah.
And these characters just can't do that.
These characters can't figure that out. And they're honestly, for me, the least like interesting, because I feel like there are movies about people like this, the older couple, or that they're just going through that late stage in life where they're not happy with where they ended up with. And though it's interesting, it's not as, explicit or crazy or weird as some of the other characters in this movie.
Right. So it's like when you look at them and then you look at Dylan Baker's character, it's like, well, I hate to say it, but I'm a little more curious about that guy.
Yeah, it's like, what is that guy going to do next? And then, speaking of which, the last character we want to talk about is actually Billy, which is the son of the Dylan Baker character, the pedophile.
He is the end of the film. He ends the film off.
Yeah, he's his whole thing about not being happy is he's not able to
finish.
He's not able to ejaculate, basically. And throughout the entire movie, he's asking his dad, the pedophile, for advice. And he's not aware that his dad's a pedophile until like way later in the movie. But that's kind of the funniest and weirdest and most awkward parts of the movie is their conversations, because
those are my favorite scenes.
On a weirdly surface level, it's kind of endearing and cute because they're like having this father-son moment, but you understand how messed up it is. It is because they're talking about other younger boys and they're talking about sexuality and they're talking about literally masturbation in such a weirdly normal conversation.
So I think what you're getting at is that the film portrays these moments as these endearing, cute moments between a father and son where they're like he's helping him kind of learn about shit, and so it's the tone of it that's kind of portraying it that way, but what they are saying and the way that, so it's like they're performing that scene, but the dialogue is extremely messed up.
So basically it's almost like they're talking about baseball, but it's not about baseball.
Right. Like we're not talking about they're talking in metaphors. They are literally saying what they mean, but it's just the tone of it and the way that the film makes it look is almost like it reads like they're talking about something like that's kind of cute and like picturesque. Like I said, kind of like the production design of the movie, it's very cartoonish, but then what they're saying is just extremely dark and fucked up. And
the funny thing about Billy, the kid played by Rufus Reed, he's actually really good in this movie.
Fantastic.
An amazing child act. Like, I cannot imagine directing a kid to perform in these scenes and like even read some of the stuff that he says and talks about with the Dylan Baker character. But he's the only kid that finds he's the only character that actually legitimately finds happiness at the end of the movie because he masturbates and he comes. He finally.
That's the last line of the movie is I came. It's like, and obviously he's young and his journey is like far from over as well, but it's like at least he's just the literal, because he's a kid, he's like the pure raw essence, like literal interpretation of exactly what all these characters are going through and want. And I think that the movie uses him as that vehicle to be like, this is what these characters are all trying to do. They're all in their own way children who don't know what they're doing and are like just want this simple kind of pleasure, and that's all they want. And so when you see him at the end be like, I did it, it kind of is like, this is all the characters wanted all along, but they've made things so complicated and they're so stubborn and they're so unwilling to be honest with themselves that it goes into all of these just wild and crazy antics and dark places. But really, the movie just kind of reveals itself at the very end, climaxes, if you will.
There's also a scene with a dog. I won't spoil it because just in case you haven't seen the movie, even though we've been spoiling a lot of the movie, but so funny. To
be honest with you, that scene with the dog, I'll just leave y'all with this. If we don't want to say what explicitly happens at the very end of the movie with the dog, I will say it is revealing of a lot of what Trish's character is about in that very moment.
Yeah.
And I think that it is an incredibly, like, to come up with that short form, like, metaphor of what is happening is, like, that's mad.
Did
like,
you
that is insane.
gag when that happened?
I don't know.
I feel like someone gagged when they saw that.
I think it might have been our neighbor, our friend Micah, who watched it with us.
But it's gross. It's so gross.
It's really gross. Yeah, the only time I've gagged in a movie was the bathtub scene in Gummo when he drops the chocolate bar in the bathtub and then picks it up and eats it and the fucking water falls out of his mouth and I literally almost threw up just watching it.
Maybe we'll talk about that one one of these days. But
yeah,
we just kind of wanted to break down all these characters in this movie because they're all very, very interesting, very messed up people, but also it kind of touches on some of our deepest, darkest like thoughts as well. Is like, what are we doing to make ourselves happy, and is that actually going to make us happy, or are we just doing it performatively, or
are we harming others in the process?
Are we harming just ourselves by doing it? And I think this movie's literally amazing. I think even though this movie is extremely controversial and messed up and dark, and a lot of people will hate this movie for merely existing, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a 5-star movie for me. 5 apples in the box, as we say. And I honestly think a lot of people should watch this movie, even just to watch it for the one time, just to kind of experience it. I feel like a lot of people should do that because it's kind of important in a way.
I concur. I agree with everything you just said. It's 5 apples in the box for me as well, out of 5. It's a film that I think if you will watch it at least once, which you should, as you just said, and then you will know who in your life can consume this and be mature about it. And I think you should show it to them. Maybe don't be an asshole and put them in there blind, but
you got to spread the happiness.
I do think this is a movie. Shout out to my friend Dylan, who I went to the Criterion Closet mobile thing with. I convinced him in line to get this. I was like, because I know him. I was like, you're going to like this movie.
Yeah.
He gave it 5 stars.
Yeah.
You got to spread happiness, and sometimes it works.
Yeah. Well, to end this off, we couldn't figure out another movie to compare this to. If you're
one of a kind.
It really is a one of a kind type of movie. So instead, we wanted to kind of shout out, say, what's your favorite Philip Seymour Hoffman movie?
I feel like everyone has one.
Yeah.
A
lot of great ones out there.
Mine might be this.
It
might be this.
For me, I don't know. Boogie Nights is great.
Boogie Nights, yeah.
Boogie Nights is great. Or Punch Drunk Love. The mirror shut up scene from that movie is so iconic. Also, there's this deleted scene thing from that movie where they recreated an advertisement of a guy trying to sell mattresses, and he's on top of this this thing, and he tries to hop on top of mattresses, and then he falls off, and then it looks like an accident, but they recreated so well. I know that's a bad explanation, but you guys need to look up the advertisement from Punch Drunk Love, Philip Seymour Hoffman falling off. It's so funny.
No, that is a fantastic video. I love it.
But honestly, anything directed by Paul Thomas Anderson with Philip Seymour Hoffman is amazing,
including Magnolia, which
this is actually
very based on kind of the Robert Altman movies, which is very similar to this. So another movie starring Philip Seymour Hoffman that's like Happiness could be Magnolia, but Magnolia is a lot less fucked up. It's got definitely some very mature and twisted stuff in it, but it's a lot more consumable, and palatable than this.
Yes. But what's your favorite Philip Seymour Hoffman, and what I guess movies do you want to see added to the Criterion Collection that isn't in there yet?
Yeah, Happiness was a highly requested one.
Yeah.
My pal Ben Thompson emailed Criterion in 2021, I believe, and said add Happiness. And then the day this got announced, they emailed him back with a smiley face and just a link to this.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so yeah, we have it now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know what is a movie you think should be added to the Criterion Collection that isn't on there currently.
I have to say, M. Night Shyamalan's The Village.
Okay. Interesting. I think I would have personally, obviously, because it's my favorite one, I would have said Unbreakable.
Well, I agree with that.
That's a bit more mainstream, probably.
It's not even that. It's just that Unbreakable has a Blu-ray and 4K.
Yeah.
Sixth Sense, probably his most popular and like the movie they would add, I think, would be that one. And that also has a Blu-ray 4K. But The Village, there's no 4K of it, and it's shot by Roger Deakins. It's a beautiful movie. I think they could really restore that and make it like a lot better. And also around the time that came out was when you got The Buried Secret of M. Night Shyamalan, which was the like documentary saying like he had like superpowers.
Yeah.
Like, it's like really goofy. They could have a bonus disc with that on it.
Yeah.
Since it kind of coincides with The Village, and it was most of those interviews were kind of conducted on that set. So I think it could be a really good package if they just did that. You know, they could do. I know this is just me glazing, but they could do like an early works of M. Night box set, just his most popular like stuff that he did early on.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that happening with The Village.
What about you?
You know what? I didn't actually think about this when I said this, but I don't know. There's so many movies. Honestly, you know, being such a Spielberg head out there, I would want something like Munich. Like,
that would be
amazing. Criterion, that, or you know, some like Empire of the Sun.
Yeah, maybe like does he even have any
on Criterion? No.
That's
he's
crazy.
he's way too popular to have something on Criterion.
Yeah, but I feel like Jaws should be on Criterion. I feel like Close Encounters.
Close Encounters would be an
Criterion.
amazing one to be on Criterion for sure. Yeah, I would just kind of like with Empire of the Sun. I just feel like not a lot of people will talk about that movie, and that would be a great one to be to put on there.
I think Munich is
like so good, so good. If you have not seen Munich, well, especially in the political atmosphere that we have right now, watch that movie. That movie's so good.
Yeah, it definitely is very impactful right now.
There's definitely a lot more movies out there that I would like to see on Criterion. I just can't think of them at the moment. We'll probably talk about it.
Do better
later.
on the next one.
I'll figure it out by the next one, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is Happiness. Great movie, very controversial. Might not be everybody's cup of tea. Actually, it will not be everybody's cup of tea, but you should definitely still check it out.
We love this movie. We're freaks, and if you stop listening after this, I actually don't blame you. I've been Peyton.
I've been Adrian.
And we'll hopefully still see you next time on the Apple Box.
All right, see you guys.